Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Tell Me Everything. I'm your host, Danielle Spinelli. I am so excited for today's episode because it's all about sales, and I miss sales so much. I'm no longer in that role. I'll kind of bring that up a little bit in the episode. Today, I have Andy Hedrick on with us. He is with Green Path Tech. He has a book out as well. I highly recommend reading. Lots of great information in there, and get your highlighter ready and highlight away. But Andy does a great job today at, explaining kind of what's going on, giving us that insight on how to improve our sales cycles and really like make some wins and closes. Because at the end of the day, that's really all that matters. But that outreach and cold sales and stuff like, or cold calling and stuff like that, how to actually make that be successful. So let's jump in it.
Tell me everything. Tell me everything.
Thanks so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. How are you doing, Andy?
Doing well. How are you, Danielle?
Good. Whenever Jenny reached out to me and she's like, you got to meet my boy Andy and have him on the show. He's great. So always whenever Jenny says that, I'm like, yeah, we got to get him on because she knows what she's talking about. So
yeah, absolutely. Jenny with Virago Marketing, we've worked together on various campaigns and projects, and then we both worked at Trimble at about the same time as well. So yeah, Jenny's great.
Oh, I love Jenny. She's like one of my nearest and dearest friends. It's so funny because I met her a year ago. Well, yeah, it's been like a year and a month ago or something at Manifest. And like we instantly became like best friends since. Like she's just kind of one of those people where like at the moment you meet her, you become really good friends.
Yeah, we love collaborating. We meet all the time. She's involved in helping us, obviously, with marketing things. And yeah, she's awesome. And I know Aaron Huff going back 18 years.
Oh,
he
wow,
and I
yeah.
first started working together when he was a editor, and then he became senior editor at Randall Riley Commercial Carrier Journal. Mm-hmm. So I've known him for about 18 years, actually, also.
Isn't that crazy? Small world.
Yeah,
small, big world. And in logistics, I think everything is small world, actually, but
it is. It's a massive industry, but it's tight-knit,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. Especially for, I guess, depending on the career, especially on like the tech side too, or marketing and stuff like that too.
Yeah, I see the same people for the last 30 years, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's fun. It's a fun industry as well. Lots of fun.
Yeah, I could never leave. That's for sure.
Yeah, me too.
Well, if you would just take a second and introduce yourself, kind of talk about what you do in your business. How long have you been in the industry? I know you already gave a little bit of a hint, but if you'll talk about that too, and then we'll kind of get into all the things that I'm ready to pick your brain.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I really, really appreciate it. So I've been in business development within supply chain for about 29 years. Going back to college, I was entering driver logs by hand back then.
Oh, wow.
Before the advent of GPS. So anyways, been in the business, the industry for about 29 years, business development. So marketing first, and then direct sales, and then sales management. And then 7.5 years ago, I started this company doing outside sales growth projects with other companies. And we've done like 250 projects, I think, to date. And then I recently released the book. It's a system for rapid sales growth in the modern B2B buying world.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm really excited to talk about this because I've been in sales for a long time. I just switched roles, so I'm actually not in sales for the first time in my life, and it's really weird. Like I actually was like talking to one of my old customers. I'm like trying to sell them on my new product. I feel like once you get the sales, stuff in your blood, it's so hard to leave. Like it's honestly so fun.
We're always selling anyway, right?
Yeah.
We're always selling, to be honest. Whether you're interviewing, having people come in and talk to you, whatever it is, you're always selling anyway, frankly.
Yeah, and most of the time you're just selling yourself. Like you want everybody to like you or that type of thing. So kind of how it works out. And that's why I think some personalities do better than others. But at the end of the day, I think you can still train everybody to sell. And I think even like the different types of personalities, sometimes that jives better with the customer because their personality is different. I'm sure you see that too whenever you're training.
Yeah, my biggest thing that I see is if you put the right systems and processes in place, right, really the personality type doesn't matter nearly as much as the system itself. Yeah.
Interesting. Good to know. So whenever I was reviewing kind of everything that you have out there and your book and stuff, I guess my biggest takeaway was how interesting it has changed. And so you've been in the industry for a long time. You've been doing this for a long time. I guess what would you say was kind of that moment when things did shift and change, and how have you seen it change here recently?
Yeah, around 2016, I saw the response rates and deals go cold. And I was starting, I really dug into it. I was watching companies hiring and getting funded and saying, what are they doing? So I actually did a deep dive into it, and then I hired a couple of consultants as well. And I'm like, so here's how we're positioning. Here's what they're doing. What should we do? And okay, so I was flying coast to coast at the time, right? Mm-hmm. I was on too many planes, hotels, and all the things. And I said, I wonder if I could use this approach, tweak it, and I'll do both for a while, right? I'll do city blitzes, is what I called it.
Yeah.
Go into a town with an anchor meeting and you can visit others. I did that for many, many, many years. So I'd do the city blitzes, but I'd also do this a digital approach and transform into more social media and more value attracting content and so forth. And I turned that engine on. So on the digital side, the pipeline exploded. And I spent like 70% less money doing it, right? So I did an analysis. I spent 30 grand on city blitzes that year for myself, and I had like a $20 million pipeline of deals. And then on the flip side, I spent 8,500, and I had $489 million worth of pipeline from that.
Wow, that's a big difference.
Like, okay, I'm going this route, right? I'm doubling down on the other side.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Especially for outside sales. So to be frank, I'm not the best at outside sales and cold calling and stuff like that. Like I was more of like, once I got a lead, like I can, I'm a closer. I can close those things, but it's such a grind to do those outside sales calls and the cold calls. Is cold calling kind of a thing of the past? And do you feel like it is more of like your brand and your marketing, or do you feel like there is still like a mix for both?
You know, we measure it. So the interesting thing is LinkedIn is number one in responses and pipeline, emails number two, and then phone is third. We typically just use phone in follow-ups. What we've found in recent years is people are screening their phones.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to get through unless you know them, right?
Yeah.
If you know them, then they're like, oh, it's Andy, oh, okay, or it's a Danielle, okay, I'll do that. But if it's somebody they don't know, half the time, or more than half, it's 90%, it just goes straight to voicemail. So, you know, we've measured this across a bunch of campaigns, and LinkedIn has the best engagement, then email, then phone, basically.
Yeah. Which I can imagine. I mean, I even have my iPhone has it set up to where like any unknown number, I have like an AI little assistant that talks to them and then shoots them to my voicemail. And then if I can read it, and if it sounds important when they're leaving a voicemail, but most of the time people don't even leave voicemails, you know, and then they just hang up and you're like, well, whoever that was, it wasn't that important.
I do the same thing. I screen my calls through the phone, and it pops up and says, this is so-and-so. I've got a loan for you. And I'm like, nope.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
You know, it's funny. I just made a post actually on LinkedIn because right now TIA is coming up. I think this will be coming out after TIA, but and I've been getting hit up, like just bombarded with emails of like, come see our booth at TIA. I'm like, if only you would look at the lead or look at, you know, the list and be like, oh, this is a tech company and I'm not a broker. I'm not really your ICP.
Yeah.
Do you feel like a lot of it's spray and pray, or do you feel like those direct, you know, making sure that you're doing your homework ahead of time? How do you see the most success?
Yeah, that homework ahead of time is really important. And honestly, the spray and pray will shut down opportunities, and it's really hard to get them open again.
Yeah.
So some of the things we do in working with Jenny and others, the content itself can't be spammy. It's got to be value driven. Insights, news, things that they're going to learn from you, and then you become an advisor, right? You become an advisor instead of a salesperson, right? Oh, Andy knows his stuff, or Danielle knows her stuff. She's plugged in here. She went to TIA. She did this. She's in. You know what I mean? The TIA thing. Just use a couple of clips from that, right? Hey, it was great meeting with all these people and whatever, and just a couple of tidbits of these are the two big trends this year. Right. They appreciate that. They appreciate that you're really, and of course the targeting. I get these emails. It's hilarious. So I've worked with a lot of trucking companies. I've worked with 70 of the top 100. Well, so basically I get an email and it says, Andy, I see you own a fleet of trucks. I can help you with your financing on your trucks and help you get into new trucks. And I'm like, that's totally off. And not only
Yeah.
is it off, it makes me shut down and unsubscribe from it.
Me too.
Because I get them routinely. I'm like, well, I can't do this. I can't keep getting. And unfortunately, most people have built a moat around themselves because there's so much spam,
Oh yeah.
myself included.
I mean, not even just work wise, but like I open up my mailbox, the majority of it is I'm pre-approved for a credit card or a loan or something, and it's like, immediately I'm throwing away most of my mail. I wish we could just do away with most mail, anyways. So do you feel like, I guess, that tactic is something that worked in the past, and then now that's kind of something that we all need to learn to phase out of? Or it's interesting to me because it's like, how did that even work in the past? Have we just gotten to be as a society kind of like you said, building a moat because it's been happening so much, or is it just simply like technology that's kind of changed our thought process on it?
Well, I think automation made it really easy for people to spam a ton of people.
Yeah.
And
True.
it is like you just mentioned, spray and pray. Well, unfortunately, that's hurt the sales profession.
Right.
So what we do and what we implement with our clients, make sure that what you're giving them shows you as a leader in that space, right? A domain authority in that space, and not just, hey, can we meet? Can we meet? That routine or are you ready to buy? Are you ready to buy? Kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, and I've watched it and measured it and so forth. If you continue to do that, your unsubscribe rates go through the roof. Your DMARC score on Gmail and Outlook goes. Spam assassin finds you and goes, this person's a spammer.
Yeah.
You really got to be careful not to go out there and do those things these days. Unfortunately, with the phone thing, this is funny. Recently, we did a campaign and we took like 200 phone numbers and we got them through a great database, and basically started calling on them. I would get through, or we would get through to somebody. They would say, "Oh, that's Juanita," or whatever. They'd push you to a voicemail box for a Juanita or something. That person doesn't exist. That is a voicemail box they're using to push anybody into that gets through their phone tree.
Interesting.
So I did all the research, like deep dive AI. Is there a Juanita at this company? There is none. There is none. And it's happened multiple times where they just push you into a voicemail box. Right. So that's unfortunate, but I guess people just got tired of being called too much.
Well, especially in logistics, the shippers, I mean, they're just getting bombarded. They're trying to work, and they're like, I already have enough people to cover all my freight. I'm not really having a hard time. So getting in front of them to being like, no, I'm actually better. And they're like, I've heard the same song and dance over and over again. So I think it's interesting whenever you just brought up the whole being the education person, because personally, I took that route whenever I was in sales. That's kind of what led me to Fraud Girl and all this stuff in the industry was, I was super passionate about it and I knew about it and I knew there was a big void in people actually educating properly, and that drove me crazy. But also so it was more like a passion thing at first, and I didn't really realize it would turn into sales. But because I was like that specialist and knowing, subject matter specialist, and I knew all these things and I could talk about it so well, people were then coming to me and being like, hey, you know what you're talking about. Let me see your product. Like, why would you represent a product that you don't know what, that is garbage whenever you clearly know what you're talking about? And so I definitely feel like people see that success, but I think it's a little bit different as a broker selling to like a shipper, right? Like, it's like, do you say like subject matter expert in that certain product, or what have you seen like kind of a success with?
We have a system. It's called the 2V to 2R ratio. Value and verified results are far greater than risk and resistors. So if you're a broker and you're trying to land that business, go to them with solutions, problems you've solved for certain people, right? Not we're better, we're nicer, we're friendlier, whatever. Honestly, that just doesn't land. You need to open with your value prop real clearly, right? And segment. So if you're doing flatbed, that messaging is a whole lot different than if you're doing dry van.
Right. True.
And what you're solving for is way different. And you need to know that, and you need to segment. So, and your messaging, you don't send a flatbed, company information about your reefer or your dry van business, right? They're
Totally.
Immediately they're like, oh, they don't even know my business.
Right.
Right?
Why
So
would
you're
they talk
better
to
off to not do that. You could send them a picture of you doing a massive load, right, on a flatbed. That would go way further than we
True.
work with this huge big box retailer. They're like, who cares?
Right.
So, and I think one of the other things we do, podcast, right? We do podcasting. We've got like 36,000 subscribers, but we do shorts, right? Take some poignant points and put it in a 2-minute video.
Right.
And I love with our clients, we bring their clients on to talk about problem, solution, benefits, value, and then we utilize that, right? That's the verified results part of it.
Yeah.
Not me saying it, but somebody saying it. And the other thing I see, Danielle, people make a mistake is they'll put a testimonial out there on their website, but it says like A. Hedrick and then a testimonial.
Yeah.
Most people look at that and go, that's bull crap. Because
Right.
it's
I want
got
to be able
to
to
be a
verify it.
person. Yeah, it's got to be a
Yeah.
So what I recommend with all of our clients, put their picture, their full name, and their company.
Yeah.
Now you've got something, because somebody can go and say, oh yeah, that person does exist actually. So just some tweaks like that make a huge difference in getting more clients landed.
Well, I think that that trust factor, like you were kind of talking about, has really shifted with like internet and things like that. Like people, and even now, like with AI, and we'll get into all that here in a second. But I think like for myself, if I see something, I'm like, this guy's full of crap. Like he just like they're just saying this and whatever. So I think you're exactly right. Like you have to come at everything that you do really should come at the mind front of like, nobody trusts me. How do I get somebody to trust me?
Yes.
And that's by being super honest and giving as much information as possible and not like hiding things. And I think, like, let's say you list a customer. The likelihood of them actually reaching out to that person and being like, hey, was this actually you? Not saying like they wouldn't, but it is possible, but the likelihood is a little bit less, I think. So, I don't know. There's a big factor in that trust, like you were saying. And so making sure that your content, and whenever you're going proactively to a sales call or whatever, you need to have that mindset. Like they don't believe anything I say at all. I'm technically full of crap because I'm that used car salesman type thing until I can prove to them, no, she actually does know, and can go from there.
Yep, absolutely, no doubt. And we have some clients, they've never really gone about getting testimonials. So what I do right out of the gate, go to some of your former colleagues to talk about your work in this space, right? Danielle's amazing. She knows what she's doing. She brings a lot of value, right? Just start with that. And that gives you credibility, right? We were talking about LinkedIn. It's pretty easy to get 4 or 5 reviews on your LinkedIn from people you've worked with, Just start with that. But that'll help. Because, whenever somebody reaches out to me, I go immediately to their website and their LinkedIn.
Right, me too.
These days, I don't trust because I get so much spam. I don't trust. I don't. I go look. Is there something of value immediately that I see and go, oh, that could potentially work with us? And then their results and their testimonials, are those real people?
Right.
So I go to their profile. Do they have any recommendations? It doesn't take that long to scroll to the bottom of a person's LinkedIn and go, do they have any recommendations whatsoever?
Right.
The ones that do, I go there. The ones that don't have any, I just stop.
Yeah,
I've got
interesting.
more from them to really make me say, yeah, they're legit.
Yeah.
They actually are legit.
Well, and there's so, like with AI and stuff too, there's so many even like fake salespeople. And I think that's caused a bigger divide in the trust factor that we have.
Yep.
One thing that I read that you wrote there was basically how a lot of times before somebody even before you really even like get to a sales call, especially like let's say an inbound lead, they're reaching out to you to say like, hey, I want to learn about your product. I want to do a demo or whatever it is. And that's, I guess, more on the tech side, but it applies to other things too. If that's happening, a lot of times they already know if they're wanting to buy from you or not. That's what you said on there. Where is it kind of that same thing like you're just talking about with the website and LinkedIn that they're typically looking at, or are they using ChatGPT to search things, or how do you feel like the buyer is actually making that decision? And then also after you're done with that part, how do you switch that around where like if you kind of have that feeling when you're talking to them that they're already leaning towards a no, how do you pull them back over?
Yeah, great questions. So your positioning has to be on your website, your LinkedIn, your pitch deck, your proposal, all the way from cold to close. Has to be consistent messaging that is value attracting, verified results, and then your approach to landing them as a client has to be low risk and low resistors. So how do you do that part? You give them a pilot, an assessment, an audit, something on the front end. You know, I've worked on a lot of deals that are $500,000, $1 million deals.
Yeah.
But they don't normally, well, it never happens anymore. Let's just be honest. They don't immediately go to the $500,000.
Right.
They go do a pilot, proof of concept, then we'll roll. And the funny thing about that part, I'll touch on here in a minute, but the resistors part is, you know, when you're selling a solution where the friction points are. Mm-hmm. Is it IT, compliance, legal, finance, whatever that is, bring it into the front end. Like I have a platform we do sales for right now. We're doing no IT involvement needed, turnkey. Because the pushback on that solution was my IT staff is overbooked.
Right.
So we've got a solution. We deliver it and turnkey, turn it on with your operators. IT is not involved whatsoever. Now, 2 years from now, if you want to integrate all this data into your ERP or something, great. But not immediately. There's no need. There's no need. So why involve them in a 3-month project for no reason and get stopped every time?
Yeah.
So what we do in those pitches and the online presence and the email, everything, is here's an example of a company that went from a problem account to better with more revenue, no IT involvement.
Yeah.
And then, right? It could be various different things. If it's a fuel treatment, it's the maintenance department, right? Whatever it is, but you bring that into your pitch actually and your messaging immediately. You address the resistance up front. So even in your online meeting, I also, just as a quick thing, I don't recommend doing any more than a 15-minute online initial meeting. Everybody's got 15 minutes.
Yeah.
If you can't, within 15 minutes, show them what you do and who you're helping, then you've got a problem. You've got too much information.
Yeah. And they're not going to pay attention to the whole thing either.
Nope.
Most of us are ADHD, myself included.
Okay.
I can't. Yeah, I'm like, I can't focus that long. You gotta get me something quick. Yeah.
The worst ones are bullet points of text, like boop, 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 and they're reading through them.
Yeah,
And
I'm like, just show me a video.
Please don't. Please, just take me to the good stuff. Like, what is the value? How does it work?
Right.
Okay, now I get it. Now we'll dive into the who, what, when, where stuff.
Yeah.
You know? But
so like, I guess if let's say it gets to the point where you're on a call, but you can kind of, like I was kind of asking you earlier, but like whenever it shifts and like clearly you brought them in enough, but they still are super resistant, and you kind of have like in your head like they already are saying no, and they just took this call because their boss was like, hey, take this call for me or whatever. How do you make it where I guess I get the point where it's like you got to show your value a little bit more, but if you're at maybe like your champion is hiding behind the scenes of so-and-so, how do you get past that one person who's been filtering through all these calls and they cannot stand anybody they're talking to? That's difficult to get to that next level. Do you have any, tips for that?
Number one, start with the top. Go president, CEO. Sell them on it. The other team, they're involved. They're behind the scenes trying to poke holes. So what you want to do in a meeting, sell the leadership on the value and the verified results, address their known resistors. You want to do what we call the 7-second test. Can they walk away from that meeting and go talk to their board, to their IT, to their legal about what you do? Like, this company is very good at final mile route optimization. They've done it with hundreds of companies.
Right.
You go to your IT with that, what are they going to push back with to the president? I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
Right? So you basically, and then they go the next level, the resistance. They have a turnkey. You don't need to do anything, Bob. They have a turnkey rollout. They train our staff. We do a parallel processing. So we don't even dispatch these routes. We just show what the differences are in mileage and time and so forth. Then at some point, we turn the switch on and we start dispatching those routes instead.
Right.
You know,
Interesting.
You're addressing the resistance throughout the whole thing there. So we've got an approach that doesn't interrupt your IT group. It's hands-on, turnkey. Don't even need them to be involved. We have a training program. We come on site. We train your dispatchers on how to use it. We don't even turn it on until everybody's comfortable, right? That, we want to go this route and so forth. I mean, and that's probably not the greatest example, because in fleet routing, you have to have some data, right? You have to have a data feed. But you could do something I did in that space, demo accounts. Demo accounts with multiple weeks of data already set up, and they're using it. They're poking around with it. Oh, well, this is way easier and better. And then that starts to trickle through the organization, and they're like, yeah, we need to do this. We need to roll this out to every building. And, you know, when I work with CEOs and founders, they're concerned a lot of times on the pilot or assessment or audit thing. But if you do the analysis, the sales cycle shorten by 50 to 80%.
Yeah.
You're thinking, well, we're not giving them the $500,000 proposal. Those proposals are going on average like 18 months. What if you shorten that cycle to a proof of concept? And lo and behold, at the end of like a 60-day pilot, they're ready to roll everything out.
Yeah. Well, and the same thing, I guess, even with like brokers selling to shippers or carriers selling to shippers too. It's like, hey, give me like 2 loads. Let me just show you what I can do.
Yep.
If, no harm, no foul and whatever. Give me your hardest ones. Let's see what I can do. I think that's kind of the same type of proof of concept, you can apply there. And then I think you're right. Like listening, I think the biggest thing too when you are on those type of calls is listening to their objections and their hesitations of like, oh yeah, well that means I have to do that, or even like the cues, especially like if you're in person or virtual, they start like being like, oh my gosh, like, well, why did they just do that when you just said that? Maybe that is a pain point that they're already dealing with. You need to make it sound, make it be like, hey, this is actually the solution for that, like you just mentioned, turnkey and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's one story that I put in the book. A CEO I was talking to on the phone. I'd been pitching him, and this product was a $1 million plus a year product rollout. He said, my team is just not ready yet. So then I just asked him, what are the concerns? What do we need to do? He gave me the points of where he was getting his pushback. I asked if we could bring the entire team into a meeting and go through the pushbacks and addressing those. How do we address those? Right. We did it, and then by the end of the meeting, it was so fun because he stood up. He goes, it was a conference room meeting in this case. He stood up and said, "See, guys, I told you you'd want to see this," and we were sold, right?
Yeah.
And but went from my team isn't ready, it's a no, to well, what can we do to mitigate the risk, help them out? And he just went through. Here's what I'm hearing. This compliance has a problem. IT has a problem. Da 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 da. And I'm like, okay, we can address all of these things. What I think we should do is bring everybody into the room and not have an hour-long pitch. It's more like, here's what this company did. They had these concerns. They rolled it out, and here was their results.
Yeah, interesting. And I
next
think
one.
short and sweet is super key. Now, I mean, think about how attention deficit we are. Even if you don't have ADHD, like scrolling on your phone and doing whatever, you do need to make pitches a lot shorter. I think that's where a lot of people struggle, and like they do multiple follow up like meetings and meeting, and it's like nobody wants to do that many meetings, or I don't, anyways. So one last thing I wanted to bring up, and I guess it's like I'm sure you hear it all the time, is AI. I think AI with sales pitching is great in a lot of senses. And then I think another way you just sound like everybody else because everybody else is using the same type of AI, probably asking similar questions. So I guess that goes into if I am using, I feel like you should always use AI whenever you're doing stuff as far as looking things up and making summaries and, that type of thing. But I guess what's your take on that? Like, do you feel like it's where you should use it, but, not use it all the time, or what do you think?
I think you can use it to your advantage, but the key is input, the quality in, quality out thing. Mm-hmm. So if I want it to give me an email, I'm going to tell it I want this to be for CEOs of LTLs, and here's a white paper, and here's a couple of testimonials. I want you to pull those in. The call to action is book me for a 15-minute meeting.
Yeah.
I want it to be compelling. If you give it all of that information,
right,
it will give you a couple of options and go, here's one that's kind of shock jock. Here's one that's more steady tone CEO. And you go, I like that. Now, even with that, one of the things I really caution people is don't take it at face value. Mm-hmm. Even within that, I go through and I look at the email, and there's always, every time, some tweaks that I have to do.
At minimum, the dashes.
Yeah, the long dashes is one,
Yeah.
Just some of the, statements it makes, you go, oh, that's not exactly right. That's not true. You don't want to be sending false information.
Right.
It's not like when you give it that much input, the tweaking, is 10%.
Yeah.
But if you just go, I need an email right now, give it to LTL, blah, 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 spit it out, and then you go send that to 1,000 people, you probably just got unsubscribed 30% or something.
Yeah, I agree.
That. So, yeah, I think it's great. I also use it for research, a lot of research.
Right.
It is great at that. It'll go all over the internet and find what are the biggest problems with fraud, like within fraud, where is the fraud happening? Stuff like that. It'll say, here's the 3 biggest things going on in fraud right now.
Yeah.
Right? And then you can dig in, right? There's a link. Boop, get more information. So I happen to work with a company in background screening and ongoing DOT clearinghouse, right? Fraud is a huge deal. They've got an identity checking platform. So if you come in to pick up their freight and your ID is not good, they have a 2-step boop, boop, front and back, and it'll go red or green. If you get somebody showing up and it's red, obviously they're not going to haul your freight away, right?
Yeah.
But that's just an example. We dug into what's going on in the industry. What are the numbers? I mean, it's billions of dollars, as you know, like a year. So we dug into how do we mitigate that? How do we flip that? And what are we doing with companies on their background screening? Some of the things we've caught and stopped. Yeah. But you hit leaders with that kind of info, like here's the trends, here's how we're addressing it and solving it, and here's 4 people what they said about us.
No, that's interesting. I mean, I would read that at that point. Like I said, the spray and pray of like, come meet with me. You're like, why would I ever even do that? Like, I don't even know who you are, whatever.
Man, the ones where they lead with, I've worked in this space for whatever years and I know what and there's no like value prop. And there's no verified results outside of them saying it, right?
Yeah. Or no, even like educational pieces.
For that.
Yeah. Right. Or even like having an educational piece in there. Like, hey, I've been in the industry for so long and I have learned blah, blah, blah. Like that would be, okay, I'll read that. But you just telling me that, like, cool, dude, I've been in the industry a long time too. Anyways,
I've been in the industry longer than you, bro.
Yeah, you're a little baby, especially if I don't know. A lot of people in logistics have been in it forever. So
yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate your time. I know we're like right at time here, but I wanted to give you a second if you could like plug yourself. How can people reach you? How do we get in touch with your book? I'll make sure to link things in the bio too, but our description, yeah. How can people reach you?
Easiest way, probably greenpathtech.com. The book is there on the website. You can get it on Amazon. I'm all over LinkedIn as well. I love LinkedIn like we've talked about. So LinkedIn, Andy Hedrick, Greenpath Tech. Those are the easiest ways.
So make sure you check Andy's website and make sure he has referrals on there, and go to his LinkedIn and see if he has referrals on there too. That's what I'm going to be doing.
Amen.
I love it. Well, thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I learned a lot, and sales is always evolving and interesting. So I think you got to stay up with technology and tactics that people are doing. And then when they start going stale, you got to switch it up. Like, I think that's a big takeaway too. We didn't even touch on. There's a lot to talk about with sales. So we'll have to do a part 2 of this, I think.
Well, thanks for having me, Danielle. I really appreciate it.
Yes, for sure. Bye, everybody.
Tell me everything. Everything.
Tell me everything.